The billionaire thought he'd seen it all, until the day he fired his assistant. But when he opened his late wife's locket that night and found her photo inside, everything he believed about love, family, and forgiveness was shattered. Before we dive into the gripping details of this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss out on more thrilling stories. When billionaire real estate tycoon Daniel Cross stormed into his glass-walled office that morning, he was already furious. The numbers were down, investors were nervous, and his assistant, Amara Johnson, had accidentally sent a confidential email to the wrong client. Before we dive into the gripping details of this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss out on more thrilling stories. Without a second thought, Daniel snapped, "You're fired. Clean your desk and leave by noon." Amara's eyes welled up, but she nodded silently. She'd worked for him for 3 years, loyal, gentle, always going the extra mile. She didn't argue. She just whispered, "I'm sorry, sir. I didn't mean to let you down." And with that, she was gone. That night, Daniel sat alone in his penthouse, surrounded by silence and regrets. On his desk sat a small silver locket, one he hadn't opened since his wife Emily passed away 5 years ago. Emily had always been the heart of everything, warm, kind, and endlessly compassionate. She told him once, "Promise me you'll never forget to see the good in people, Danny." With trembling hands, Daniel finally opened the locket. Inside was their wedding photo, but tucked behind it, barely visible, was another picture. He pulled it out, his breath caught in his throat. It was a photo of a little girl, maybe 8 years old, Amara. Daniel froze. How could his wife have a photo of his assistant? Decades before she even worked for him. He searched through old albums, letters, and photos until he found an envelope labeled, "For Danny, when you need to remember." Inside was a letter. "If you ever meet a young woman named Amara Johnson, please don't let her go. She was there for me when no one else was. She's special, Danny, more than you'll ever know." Daniel's hands trembled. His wife had known Amara years before he did. But how? He grabbed his phone, scrolled through his contacts, and hovered over Amara's number. His chest ached. He didn't know what he'd say, or if she'd even answer. Just then, a knock echoed through his penthouse door. When he opened it, Amara was standing there, tears in her eyes, holding the same silver locket in her hand. Daniel Cross stood frozen at the door, unable to speak. Amara stood before him, her eyes red, her hands shaking. In her palm was the same silver locket that had haunted his heart for years. "Where did you get that?" Daniel whispered. Amara looked down. "It was your wife's," she said softly. "Emily Cross. She gave it to me a long time ago." Daniel felt his knees weaken. "That's impossible. Emily's been gone for years. How did you know her?" Amara took a shaky breath, tears slipping down her cheeks. "Because she saved my life. 15 years earlier, a young Amara had been living in a broken neighborhood, caring for her sick mother and younger brother. She worked part-time cleaning houses, one of which belonged to Emily Cross. Emily had treated her not as help, but as family. She'd helped Amara's mother get medical care, paid her school tuition, and always said, 'You're going to change lives one day, Amara. Don't forget who you are.' But when Emily was diagnosed with cancer, Amara had been by her side, holding her hand through the pain when even Daniel was too busy with business to notice. Daniel sank into a chair, guilt crashing over him. He'd been blind to his wife's secret kindness, and blind to the young woman she'd once called her second daughter. I fired you," he whispered. "And all this time, you were the last person who ever stood by my wife." Amara shook her head. "She never blamed you, Mr. Cross. She loved you. She said you just forgot how to feel." The words cut deep. Daniel stared at the city skyline, a reflection of his success built on loneliness. "Amara," he said quietly, "I need to make this right. Please come back." But before Amara could answer, her phone buzzed. She glanced down, and all the color drained from her face. "It's my brother," she stammered. "He's in the hospital." Daniel's instincts took over. "I'll drive. Now." Minutes later, they raced through the city. Daniel's mind swirled. Fate had brought this woman back into his life for a reason. When they reached the hospital, Amara rushed inside. But as Daniel followed, a nurse stopped him. "Sir, only family can enter right now." Amara turned back, eyes wide, her voice trembling as she spoke the words that froze Daniel's heart. "He is family." Daniel blinked in shock. "What are you talking about?" Amara took a deep breath, her voice breaking. "Because your wife promised she'd tell you one day, but she never got the chance. Mr. Cross, my mother wasn't just someone Emily helped. She was your wife's sister." Daniel stood frozen in the hospital hallway, his mind spinning. "Your mother was Emily's sister?" he whispered. Amara nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Her younger sister. Emily helped us after our father left. She was all we had." Daniel's heart pounded. The pieces of his late wife's secret life began to fall into place. Her quiet trips to the poorer neighborhoods, the unexplained donations, the secret letters she'd hidden in her study. "She never told me," he murmured. "Why would she keep something like that from me?" Amara's voice trembled. "Because she didn't want you to see her as different. She said the world wouldn't understand, that love shouldn't be divided by color, by class, by anything." Daniel felt something break inside him. Not pain, but awakening. All these years, he had built walls around his heart. Emily had spent her life tearing hers down. Inside the hospital room, Amara's younger brother, Malik, lay unconscious. The machines beeped softly. Daniel stepped closer and saw a small bracelet on the boy's wrist, silver, engraved with one word, hope. It was the same word engraved inside Emily's wedding ring. Daniel's breath caught. He turned to Amara. "Where did he get that?" She hesitated. "Emily gave it to him before she died. She said it would lead him home someday." A soft knock interrupted them. A nurse stepped in, holding a small envelope. "Miss Johnson, this was in your brother's belongings. He said it was meant for you and Mr. Cross." Amara opened the envelope with trembling hands. Inside was a faded letter, the handwriting unmistakably Emily's. Daniel felt his pulse race as Amara began to read aloud. "My dearest Amara and Danny, if you're reading this, then fate has brought you together, just as I hoped it would. There's one last truth you both deserve to know. It's something I couldn't say while I was alive, something that changes everything you thought you knew about our family." Asterisk. Amara looked up, her eyes wide. "There's more on the back." Daniel turned the letter over, and his heart nearly stopped. In Emily's delicate handwriting were the words, "Danny, if you ever feel alone, remember, you were never childless." Daniel staggered back. No, that can't mean." Amara's lips trembled as she whispered. "She couldn't mean me, could she?" Before Daniel could answer, Malik stirred in his bed, his eyes fluttered open, and he whispered just one word, "Dad." The room fell completely silent. Daniel's heart pounded so loudly he could hear nothing else. What did you just say?" he whispered. Malik blinked weakly, his voice barely a whisper. "Dad, Mom said you'd come for us one day." Amara froze, her breath catching in her throat. "Malik, no, that can't." But Daniel's knees gave out. He sank into the chair beside the hospital bed, his face pale as the memories came flooding back. Flashes of Emily's laughter, her mysterious late nights, her quiet tears before she passed. "Promise me you'll always open your heart, Danny." Her words echoed in his mind like thunder. He looked at Malik, the boy's eyes, his expression, even a faint dimple on his left cheek. They were his. Amara stepped forward, trembling. "Are you saying Emily had a child? With you?" Daniel shook his head. "No, that's impossible. We couldn't have children. We tried for years." Amara's voice softened. "Then what did she mean by you were never childless?" Daniel stared at the letter again. On the bottom corner, he noticed faint ink marks, like fingerprints, and 2 words smudged by tears. "He is yours, even if not by blood." A nurse entered, carrying a small, sealed box. "This was delivered to the hospital weeks ago," she said. "For Mr. Cross, from Emily Cross's estate. It said, to be given if Amara Johnson is ever admitted here." Daniel's hands shook as he opened it. Inside was a folded photograph. Emily, Amara's mother, and a baby boy in Emily's arms. On the back, Emily had written, "He is my sister's son, but I chose to love him as ours." Amara gasped. Daniel felt tears blur his vision. She wanted me to be his father. Amara nodded slowly. She wanted you to know love again. Daniel reached out, gently taking Malik's small hand in his own. For the first time in years, he didn't feel like a billionaire, just a man who'd been given one last chance to make things right. "You're safe now, son," he whispered. "I'm not going anywhere." Amara smiled through her tears. Emily would be so proud. But just as warmth began to fill the room, a sudden beeping alarm shattered the moment. Malik's monitor spiked. Nurses rushed in, shouting for assistance. Daniel stepped back in panic. "What's happening?" The doctor looked up, his face grave. "He's rejecting the transfusion. His blood type doesn't match." Amara's eyes widened. "But it has to. I'm his sister." The doctor hesitated, holding up Malik's chart. "According to his records, he's not your biological brother." Daniel and Amara locked eyes, the truth crashing over them like a storm. "Then who is he?" Daniel whispered. The doctor turned the page in the file and said quietly, "According to the adoption documents, his birth mother listed the father's name as..." He stopped, eyes widening as he read the signature aloud. "Daniel Cross." The room seemed to stop breathing. Daniel stared at the file in the doctor's hand, at the name Daniel Cross written in faded ink. That can't be right," he whispered. Amara steadied herself. "Mr. Cross, do you remember a clinic in Chicago about 10 years ago?" Daniel searched his memory. Endless meetings, business trips, charity galas. And then it struck him, a small medical outreach program his company had funded. He donated to help single mothers afford care. "Yes," he said slowly. "Emily managed that program." The doctor nodded. "According to these papers, one of the mothers used your name to secure her son's protection. Emily verified it herself." Daniel's voice trembled. "So Emily claimed Malik as my child, not because I was his father, but because she wanted to save him." Amara's eyes filled with tears. She covered the truth to keep him safe. "My aunt always said love isn't about blood, it's about who stays." Daniel sank to his knees beside Malik's bed. All the power, money, and pride he'd carried for years melted away. He reached for the boy's hand and whispered, "Then I'll stay. Always." Amara knelt beside him, placing her hand over his. For the first time, they weren't boss and employee, just two souls trying to finish what a good woman had started. A nurse entered quietly. "Mr. Cross, the new transfusion is working. He's stabilizing." Daniel exhaled a shaky breath. "Thank God." He looked at Amara with a small, grateful smile. "Emily brought us together. Maybe this was her plan all along." Amara nodded. "To teach us that family is something you build, not something you're born into." Later that evening, Daniel stood by the hospital window, watching the city lights flicker. Amara joined him, resting the silver locket in his palm. Inside were now 3 photos: Emily, Amara, and Malik. "I think she wants you to keep it," Amara said softly. Daniel closed his fingers around it. "No," he said gently, placing the locket back in her hand. "She wants us to keep it." For the first time in years, he smiled. Not the smile of a billionaire who had everything, but of a man who'd finally found what he'd lost. But as the monitors beeped steadily and peace settled in, the nurse returned with a puzzled look. "Mr. Cross, there's something else. The adoption file, it wasn't complete. There's a missing page." She handed Daniel a torn sheet. At the bottom, in Emily's handwriting, were the words, "If anything ever happens to me, tell Daniel to find the woman in the photograph." Daniel frowned. "What woman?" The nurse held up another item found in the box. An old photo of a smiling young woman standing beside Emily, holding a newborn. Amara gasped. "That's not my mother, and that's not me." Daniel felt his pulse quicken. The back of the photo had one line written in fading ink. "She knows the rest of the story." Morning light spilled through the hospital window as Daniel and Amara studied the old photograph again. The woman beside Emily looked familiar, but neither could place her. "If Emily wanted us to find her," Daniel said quietly, "then she's the final piece of the truth." With the hospital's permission, they searched through Emily's old charity files. One address appeared over and over: Willow Haven Home for Girls, a small community shelter Emily had supported years ago. That afternoon, they drove there together. The building was modest, but full of laughter. Girls playing outside, volunteers handing out lunches. An elderly woman greeted them at the door. "You must be Daniel Cross," she said with a warm smile. "Emily told me one day you'd come." Daniel's heart skipped. "You knew her?" The woman nodded. "She was my dearest friend. My name is Grace Allen." Amara held up the photograph. "Then this is you?" Grace smiled, tears glimmering. "Yes, that baby was my daughter, Hope. Emily helped me when I had nowhere to go. She made sure my child had a future." Grace led them into her small office, pulling out a worn envelope from a drawer. "Emily left this for you, Daniel. She said you'd only understand its meaning once you'd learn how to love again." Inside was a short handwritten note. "Danny, every life you touch leaves a mark on yours. Love Amara as family. Protect Malik as your own. And when you meet Grace, remember, the legacy of love doesn't end with us. It begins again through the ones we've helped." Daniel's hands trembled. All this time, she was building a family out of kindness. Amara whispered, and she wanted us to continue it. Grace reached for a box beneath her desk and handed it to them. Inside was a plaque engraved with the words, "The Emily Cross Foundation, for every child who needs a home." Daniel looked at Amara, emotion thick in his throat. "We'll reopen it. Together." Amara smiled, the locket gleaming around her neck. Then her love really does live on. As they stepped outside, Malik's laughter echoed across the yard, chasing butterflies with the other children. For the first time in years, Daniel felt peace. He whispered to the sky, "Thank you, Emily. I finally understand." But as the breeze carried his words away, Grace approached once more, holding a thin folder Daniel hadn't noticed before. "There's one more thing Emily wanted you to have," she said. "She called it the final wish. She made me promise not to open it. Only you can." Daniel stared at the sealed envelope, his heartbeat quickening. On the front, in Emily's delicate handwriting, were the words, "For Danny, when you're ready to forgive yourself." Daniel sat alone in the quiet garden behind the children's home. The sunset painted the sky in soft golds and pinks, the same colors Emily used to say looked like forgiveness. In his hands rested the sealed envelope marked, "For Danny, when you're ready to forgive yourself." For a long moment, he couldn't bring himself to open it. His life had been rebuilt piece by piece. Amara working beside him, Malik laughing again, Grace helping them reopen the foundation. Yet one thing still felt unfinished: peace. Finally, with trembling fingers, he broke the seal. Inside was a single letter in a pressed white lily. "My Danny, if you're reading this, it means you finally looked beyond your guilt and saw the beauty still left in the world. You always thought love was something to earn. But love, real love, is grace. It doesn't keep score, it only gives. I never wanted you to punish yourself for the years you were lost in work or pride. I wanted you to find what I found. That family isn't written in blood or fortune, but in the hearts we choose to hold. Promise me 3 things. Keep helping others find a home. Tell Amara she was always my miracle, and tell her little Malik that he was the reason I believed in second chances. And when you look in the mirror and still see the man who failed me, smile and forgive him. Because I already did. Always yours, Emily." Tears blurred Daniel's eyes. He pressed the letter to his heart and finally exhaled a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding for years. "You forgave me long before I ever asked," he whispered. Amara appeared at the garden gate, Malik clutching her hand. "Mr. Cross? We're all waiting inside. Grace says it's time." Daniel smiled through his tears. "Time for what?" "For the dedication," Amara said. "To reopen the Emily Cross Foundation." Together they stepped inside. Children gathered. Laughter filled the hall, and a new plaque gleamed above the door. "Love builds every home." Daniel placed Emily's letter in a glass frame beside it. "This," he said softly, "is what she left us. Not money, not buildings, but a way to start over." As the applause rose, Daniel looked toward the window where sunlight poured in, and for just a moment, he could almost see Emily's gentle smile in the light. "Thank you," he whispered, "for teaching me how to forgive and how to live." The music swelled, children laughed, and the locket around Amara's neck caught the light. glittering like a promise. But outside, unnoticed, a courier parked and stepped out of a van. He held another envelope, its return address faded, but the sender's name still visible, Emily Cross. The evening breeze drifted through the newly opened Emily Cross Foundation. Laughter spilled from every corner. Children painted, volunteers cooked, and music hummed softly from an old radio. Daniel stood at the entrance, the locket glinting around Amara's neck and Malik playing nearby. For the first time in years, he felt whole. Then the courier approached, holding a weather-worn envelope. This arrived at the Old Cross residence, sir. It was delayed in storage for almost a decade. Daniel frowned. Who sent it? The man smiled faintly. Mrs. Emily Cross. In the quiet of his office, Daniel, Amara, and Grace gathered around as he opened it carefully. Inside was a short letter written in the same graceful hand, and a small key wrapped in ribbon. My dearest Annie, if this reaches you, it means life carried you farther than grief ever could. This is not a letter of sorrow, but of beginnings. The key belongs to the old greenhouse behind our home, the one we never finished. Inside you'll find a box. It's not gold or jewels, just something that belongs to all of us. Please plant it together. Let it grow. Love always finds its way back home. Emily. The next morning, Daniel, Amara, Malik, and Grace drove to the long-forgotten estate. The greenhouse stood covered in ivy, sunlight spilling through cracked glass. In the corner sat a small wooden box. Inside were paper packets labeled in Emily's handwriting, Seeds of Hope. Amara smiled through her tears. She was still teaching us how to start over. Together they planted the seeds in the warm soil. Weeks later, tiny green shoots reached toward the sky, bright, determined, alive. 1 year later, the greenhouse bloomed in a riot of color. Children from the foundation played among the flowers, each one wearing a tag shaped like a heart that read, Planted by Love. Daniel stood beside Amara and Malik, sunlight touching their faces. She never really left us, he said quietly. Amara nodded. She just planted herself in everyone she loved. Malik tugged at his hand. Dad, can we name this garden after her? Daniel smiled, his eyes shining. No, son. We'll name it after what she believed in. He turned to the carved wooden sign and etched the words himself. The Garden of Second Chances. As the camera of the story pulls back, the flowers, the laughter, the sunlight, the family, it settles on the locket hanging from Amara's neck. Inside are 4 photos now. Emily, Amara, Malik, and Daniel. And on the inside rim, newly engraved. Forgiveness is the seed. Love is the bloom. The wind rustles the flowers, carrying Emily's voice like a whisper through the garden. You did it, Danny. Fade to light.